Okay, part 2. All right. My dog's looking at me. What? What? You want to come up, say hi up? Come on up. She's like, not really. I don't like that. Okay, so, okay, up. Come on, go up. No, up. No, up. Okay. She's like, I don't like the camera. No, I don't like it. You stay. You stay. Let me finish. Just let me finish. Okay, part 2. All right, so basically, they implant the cows. Cows work best with the fertilized embryos. And then when they come in after a certain period of time, see, because they were doing this to women, in maybe 4 to 6, 8 weeks. And this other thing too is, even though women would have felt pregnant and maybe even kind of had an inkling that they were pregnant from extraterrestrials, women that were being abducted, their hormones, because the hormones would have been changed a little bit because there's a hybrid, may have not always showed up as pregnant in a pregnancy test. And because I feel like there's been a long-term conspiracy that the pregnancy tests were designed, just for human type stuff. And if there's any other kind of hormones in there, hybrid, it just ixnayed it. So then it would have results of, we're not sure, so let's do another test. And usually by the time, like another test or whatever else, there would be some kind of miscarriage. And I know people who, have weird period cycles. So they may not have a period for 2 or 3 months and then have periods for 6 months and off and on. And the medicals say, well, it's a hormonal thing, right? So there's a lot of variations. So when women started being able to get regular abortions, this was a problem for the extraterrestrials that had made treaties on Earth to use humans as livestock. I mean, lots of different reasons: biological material, impregnating, all the kind of things that we do to animals. So, I mean, where do we learn that? Hello. So they're going to take, the parts of the animal, because they kind of have to take the whole female organ of the cow out, which is going to kill the cow anyway. And then they can get rid of a lot of the blood fluids. They take a lot of the organs that will have a lot of high hormones, that could be tested. So in the process of surgically removing all that stuff, and then what they do is they take the fetus, that's out of the cow, and they put them in a tube, and then they grow them. And this is something that's been around since, Sumerian times, where my brain just went, I think maybe you might get in trouble for talking about this. Well, anyway, it is what it is, right? So, anyway, so there's this kind of a thing when you have a being that kind of has more of a humanoid, especially from this planet, and there has to be an early connection with it may not even be the mother, but a female human where it's developed. Otherwise, they don't develop from an embryo. So they can't really hybrid them, full on in a petri dish. They can, poke the embryo and get the sperm in it, the hybrid material. But then they can't get it to actually grow. They have to put it into a human womb or, something like that, a womb. in order to get, the beginning stages of development done. Then they can put it in like a test tube or something like that. And like I said before, I think they do it for food. I think that they do it to, make new bodies, to put on other planets for enslavement, for slavery, so that they have biological materials other places. I think that they sometimes freeze them or, put them in places so that they can keep harvesting biological material from them. I think some of them are raised, and some of them have been tried to be put into Earth here. There's people that have written books about experiences with them, hybrids, and they always look different, much different. And like I said, I think there's all kinds. I think there's human and gray. I think there's, human Anunnaki. I think there's human Palladian. I think there's human whatever. But, this is the thing is like people always get in, the conversation always goes to things like good and bad. Are they good ETs or are they bad ETs? This is the way I look at it. Any ET that is hybriding humans for whatever agenda is trespassing and using us. So even if it's supposedly for a better cause, how can it be for a better cause if you're being trespassed on? You're having things taken and put into your body. And now they're making a move in the United States to cancel out Roe v. and Wade. So women are going to go back like 2,000 years and not have any control over their reproductive organs. And I'm not saying like, abortion is a good thing or whatever else, but, there has to be a choice. And for women, if it keeps us from being implanted with hybrids or experimented on by extraterrestrials, that we get to have abortions, right? I think there's just, there's a much larger agenda here that people just can't seem to put together. 1 and 1 equals 2. I mean, if they're using fertility and they're doing, applications of embryonic stuff, with sperm and lab dishes and then inserting it into women, I mean, where have they learned that? How far does it go back? People just can't seem to put it together. So this is kind of one of those subjects that's like, hard to swallow. But they use cows a lot more nowadays, probably a lot more other kinds of animals as well, to carry it out because, women find out they're pregnant or whatever. A lot of them just go in and have an abortion. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but where did that become a sin? And whose authority reigns over that natural, thing? And the other thing too is everything has been taken away from women. Indigenous women in their own tribal cultures would have had the idea of not getting pregnant if you're in a drought because you're not going to be able to feed those children. So in some way, tribal women and cultures were smarter than we are now. I mean, you think about all these women who are getting pregnant. The economy and the US dollar world markets are getting ready to collapse. Are you growing food in your yard? I mean, are you going to be able to feed these children? I'm just like flabbergasted, like how ignorant and so far away that humans' natural instincts are. I mean, that tells you like most of the whites are hybrids because we don't even have any instincts on this planet, right? The other thing too is like that blows me away is people can't put one and one together, even scientists, that, you know, white people, we burn in the sun, and it's called a radiation burn, and we can get up to 3rd-degree burns. Well, people that have dark complexions, their skin is, I mean, African people, their skin is 50 sunscreen, the same as 50 proof sunscreen. This is why they have all this anemia problem, is because they're not out in the sunlight all the time, because it takes huge amounts of them being in the sunlight to actually retain sunlight nutrient, vitamin D, vitamin A, a lot of these kinds of nutrients that come from sunlight. And because they're inside all the time, they have all these problems. They have anemia, they have all these health problems because they are not getting enough sunlight, because it takes astronomical amounts of sunlight, because you know what? They were outside all the time. So that tells you that they have evolved on the planet because they have developed ways to live on this planet where we white people haven't really. So, yeah. I don't know. Okay, let's go back to this tribal thing real quick, and then I'll end it, because I have a lot of stuff that I have to do. So in tribal cultures worldwide, they all had different kinds of medicines that if they ended up getting pregnant, but say their community couldn't sustain more children, that they would do a natural abortion. Hey, come here. Jen, here. Jen, come here. Inside. Stay. She's like, oh, I'm going to go take off. Down. She'll sneak out because she's smart. She's a good dog, though. Super good dog. All right. So they would have different things. Like, for example, I was reading articles about women who would have lived in like places where you could grow like lemons and very acidic things. And they could literally cut a ring out of the lemon, place it way up there by their uterus, and it would be a natural spermicide. It would kill the sperm. So, you wouldn't get pregnant if you were, having sex. So a lot of different cultures had a lot of different stuff. I myself had a natural miscarriage with a help of indigenous person using pennyroyal. This was a long time ago. And you have to be really careful with pennyroyal because you could actually hemorrhage to death. So you have to be really, really careful with some of the stuff that you use. And so these were just normal practices. You would just, in your tribe, you just go to the pharmacist because they had all kinds of medicinal plants, that did all kinds of different stuff. And you were allowed to have what you needed and wanted. It wasn't withheld from you, and so for me, the abortion issue kind of is more about us being experimented on and implanted with hybrids, and then they're removed because most of the time we're never full term. They're never full term. Sometimes you can have periods while you're impregnated because it's a different kind of hormone, if it's a half human, half hybrid. So, but the thing is that I think it's wrong that they would, take our embryos, implant them, hybrid them, and then put them back in us. I mean, those are kind of our kids. So do you think that's more wrong that we're implanted with a fetus and then it's after, however many weeks it's taken away. And then, they take it wherever they're going to take it for food or biological material or even to grow, to put them on another planet or whatever else is going to take place. So, I think ethically, personally, that's more wrong. And I really feel like if, people are allowed to have abortions. And maybe, we just need more herbalists. So you have a herbalist in every community. So, our medicinal rights and our healthcare rights and all the rights that we should have are placed back in our hands and out of control of medicine, out of control of the AMA, out of control of the pharmacy, out of control of the government, and help to deregulate medicine and get it back to nature, get it back to plant-based. Every plant that you need, most of the medicines that are made in pharmaceutical medicine are based on plant medicines that they synthetically make. So we just have a lot of work. We have to get back to natural law, which is I'm in control and I am involved with all aspects of my life. The soil, the water, the air, the food I put in my mouth, the medicines I take based on my soil and growing them on my own land for whatever reasons. That's how we get our rights back. So, you think about all these laws and all these other things and everything that's going on, and it always goes back to extraterrestrials behind the scenes. And I think, people, I know it's really hard to grasp, but it's all going to kind of be coming to a head pretty soon. And you're going to find out that they have been controlling everything from behind the scenes. So these laws that you can't have an abortion, and these religions that they've helped to create that dominate women and repress women and don't allow us to have any choices about our own reproduction. And I know that a lot of right-wing people are going to freak out on this. And you know what? The thing is, even the liberals and stuff, they're going to be like, yeah, right to choice or whatever. I mean, the thing is, it's so ridiculous because it's not even either one of those kinds of things, right? Those are your belief systems. Those are what you've been sold. Those are your control mechanisms, right? Those are your enslavement rules and your enslavement statuses and your enslavement belief systems. And that, it's further than that. It's out more than that. So the hidden hand, right? All right. Oh, I got a lot to do today. Anyway, I know that just seems kind of like out there, but anyway. Bridget Lynn, Dog Off, Conscious of Economics and Urban Farm Projects. Have a great day. Bye.